I'm an overland adventurer for the last 30 years. I firmly believe the Trans-Siberian Odyssey set a new benchmark for overland adventures at what Indians can possibly do. After tasting success on the Trans-Siberian Odyssey, the Bajaj team came up to me and said, have you ever thought of riding between the Arctic to the Antarctic? Give me an adventure I can't refuse. Yes, and I'm sure Bajaj would have taken notice of that and said, do you think you can do this?
This was a huge ride to start from the topmost part of North America, even beyond the Arctic Circle, and end at the lowermost part of South America, close to the Antarctic Circle.
I was really excited because we were covering 4 most difficult terrains of the world on this ride. The heights of like 15,000 feet above sea level, rainy part, the jungles, the desert. This ride had all the elements a rider can ever dream of.
This is the mother, father, the grandmother of all the rides.
And this will redefine every limit an Indian has possibly done as an overland adventurer.
3 Dominar riders decided to embark on a journey that overshadowed every other. One that pushed the boundaries of distance covered, surpassed the limits of endurance, and crossed through every possible terrain, weather, and road condition. The Dominar Polar Odyssey stretched from the North Pole to the South Pole, spanning 3 continents, 99 days, 51,000 kilometers, 15 countries, traversing every major latitude on the planet.
Yeah, we flew our motorcycles from Mumbai to Anchorage and started riding north.
But at the very start of the Odyssey itself, the 3 Dominar riders came face to face with 2 of the toughest roads on the planet.
600 kilometers of absolute no road.
The loneliness, you would find absolutely no vehicle.
There were warnings saying that, you need to take care. The terrain is pretty hostile.
So when you start off with the hard ground with just sand on it.
Full of dust, the trucks passed by throwing sands everywhere.
Then it slowly changes to gravel.
Riding on this, very loose gravel.
Then it changes to slush, then it changes to mud, then it changes to clay. So you can't just have one riding style and keep going.
Unpredictable weather. The temperatures were always below 5.
On top of it, it started raining.
And it never left us for the next 5 days.
We took a beating, the motorcycles took a beating.
The rains had made that road into a disaster. There used to be slush that used to get accumulated on the radiator fins. And that eventually used to block the wind from keeping the engine cool. But in spite of all this, we were able to kind of push.
In spite of every kind of difficulty was there, the bike performed really well.
With all the luggage and all the paraphernalia we had on our motorcycles, the motorcycle was supporting us driving at even higher speeds, even on off-roads.
But traversing these unforgiving roads let our riders reach the first milestone of this Odyssey.
We did the Arctic Circle on the US side as well as the Canadian side.
Going behind that board and pasting a footprint that, we Indians have reached here, that moment is something that's left impregnated in my mind for life.
We are at the Arctic Ocean, so I couldn't help but jump into the Arctic Ocean and take a swim there. It was a celebration once we reached there.
Following the crossing of the Arctic Circle, while conquering 2 of the world's toughest roads, the 3 Dominars continued south towards breathtaking Canada.
So once we entered Canada, see greenery finally from nothingness.
The entire landscape and the journey changed.
It is so beautiful, it is really hard to just continuously keep riding.
Canada has got some of the most beautiful national parks. We came across beautiful Salmon Glacier.
The highways were really very fast. The speed limits were 120.
All expressways and beautiful roads where you can belt it on the highways. You see people riding cruisers. With our motorcycles, we could catch up with them, ride on par with them.
These bikes performed really well at those speeds.
Not a day of fatigue of riding from dawn to dusk. The comfort level that we have ridden on the Bajaj Dominar is absolutely fantastic.
But just as the team was taking in the splendor of this beautiful land, the journey ahead took an awful turn.
So at the junction, it was green. When I'm about to cross the white line, so a lady from the other side jumped the signal and then just came in front of me. I slammed the brakes. Thankfully, we had ABS on it. Nothing happened to me, but my motorcycle broke.
This accident actually was a big shocker.
This was the most depressing thing which happened. My motorcycle has fallen down, so I am there thinking that is this the end of my journey?
Avinash's bike required urgent repairs. But at the brink of this desperate situation, it was the people of Canada who came to the rider's aid, all to make sure that the Odyssey continued ahead.
Alright, Deepak, yesterday we have Navdeep Paji and today we have Vakil Paji. So 3 stars are still there. We will get you picked up.
The help that the Indian community did there in Vancouver, I don't think, like anybody else would have stood up for that moment and helped us.
With the help of Bajaj, who sent the parts on priority basis, the riders, the people who are around, I could get myself back together.
Avi, sad face.
Sad face, not anymore.
We just need to finish this and head out.
I believe when you are riding as a team, every component of the team is important. Everyone in the team should work towards that goal.
Cheers to that.
Thrilled to be back on the road, the team was now ready to take on the legendary highways of USA.
The United States is known for some of the most iconic cities in the world.
But for us, what really attracted was their amazing highways.
The US road is something that actually prompts you to ride more.
Sit in a comfortable position and then just keep munching miles on the highway.
We would say it is 500, okay, we will do it in 5 hours. We were doing 800 plus kilometers daily.
And all this was done with my wife sitting behind me and just cruising along the American highways.
We rode for more than 19,000 kilometers together with no signs of any discomfort.
Suddenly, like we are looking at speeds that are in excess of about 120, 130.
So it was quite a question inside of us. Can we really do it? Can the motorcycle really take it? Once we started riding, we understood that the motorcycle is actually quite comfortable at 120 and it still has a little reserve torque to take us out of any tricky situation.
Our machines were doing neck and neck with trucks or the big bikes. The stability and the power was optimal.
After crossing the East Coast, the three Dominars ventured west, which brought them to the Mother Road, the legendary Route 66.
I had dreamt of riding on Route 66.
For me, USA was Route 66.
We could do a section of the Mother Road in Arizona, going to a point where, we could actually feel what the Mother Road was all about. One experience I really cannot forget is us riding on continuous snowfall on the northern ridge of the Grand Canyon. A couple of inches of snow. Next day morning, we see the bikes all there was so much of ice formation on that. And in spite of that, when we tried to crank, one crank, start. The Death Valley Road is one of the most challenging roads for the sheer. It's one of the hottest regions in the United States.
It was miles and miles of deserted roads.
Landscape was turning so much beautiful time to time. I need to disconnect from the motorcycle and then focus on the things around me. This motorcycle was smooth enough and it was just working itself in the background. So this is what I want from my motorcycle.
The beautiful highways of USA showed the riders what the Dominar was capable of on the straights. But would the bikes match up to off-roading on the 1,200-kilometer dust plains of Baja California in Mexico?
Baja was the next big thing, 1,000 miles of off-road.
You suddenly start riding into the desert kind of a condition.
Hot, it's humid, it's kind of nothingness. Here also you have forests just like anywhere else, but here it's the forest of cactus.
Maybe 100 feet, 150 feet of cactus.
The Baja 1000 is one of the most famous off-roading races ever.
Many opportunities we gave ourselves to take the motorcycles across the highway, get off on the sand trails and connect to the highway at a different point.
So going and riding in certain patches of the Baja 1000 was kind of a dream come true.
Beautiful off-beat trail that is taking me across to the Gulf of California. This is the Baja California. Absolutely beautiful.
All along the journey through Central America, the boys took several stops just to observe the majestic and varied landscapes this region had to offer.
Once we moved out of the Baja Peninsula into the mainland Mexico and started heading down south towards Guatemala, the landscape and the forest regions were quite synonymous with something back home here. The feeling was quite nostalgic.
One nice thing about Central America is that every 500 kilometers or 700 kilometers you see a completely new landscape.
Plain terrains transformed into the pure hill, curvy terrains. El Salvador, Honduras and Nicaragua. So these three countries we passed through in a day.
I had never dreamt in my life that I would take a motorcycle and cross 3 countries in one day, you know.
So the entire stretch of the Latin American countries, probably 10 days.
Racing through the tropical forest, the riders entered Panama, the 9th country of the Odyssey.
Incidentally, today is the Independence Day of Panama. As you can see, there's a lot of festivities at the border here. It's just like our Independence Day back home where the school children indulge in the festivities of gaining independence.
You know, getting into Panama and then getting into a celebration. So this was the best way to end Central America for us.
But what lay ahead was a true test for the Dominar. South America was home to the Amazon jungle, Andes mountain range, dry Atacama desert, and the world's 2nd toughest road.
Trying to do the Yunga, the death road.
Terrain was broken roads, gravel, steep slopes.
You have cliff on one side and you have vertical walls on the other. And this is just a 1-lane off-road.
This is a very narrow trail, which is probably about 25 feet wide. There are hardly any roads that have been maintained.
Very narrow, with a sharp curve. You don't know whether a vehicle is coming on the other side. It's pretty foggy, there's a lot of mist, so that becomes a challenge.
The extremely perilous Death Road elevates 15,800 feet.
A little short of breath because we are at quite a few elevation.
One that is riddled with landslides, cascades, and 2,000 feet cliff drops.
The front shockers and the rear shockers were in absolute tandem to make sure the grip of the bike was beautifully managed and didn't allow the bike to swerve around and give us a toss.
Descent was acute. To stop the bike on those kind of roads is a difficult task.
The way I would ideally manage my Dominar would be using the gears when going down, and those have been absolutely brilliant.
At the end, when you see such a beautiful landscape, it just makes it worthwhile.
I am pretty happy with the way the bike held on to the ground and kept the rubber side down.
Once past the deadly mountain twisties, the riders reached the world's largest salt flats, the famous Salar de Uyuni.
The Salar de Uyuni, 11,000 square kilometers of salt flat. You get in, you just cannot see the end.
There are no tracks. You are just looking at the sun and trying to find out which is east and west.
You can do whatever you wish to do with your machines. Every biker would love to see Salar de Uyuni.
Anybody who's into motorsports, it is definitely the mecca for them.
Riding on the salt flats was an exhilarating experience. But then came the Atacama Desert, the driest place in the world.
The color of the sand is totally different to what we have seen. It definitely looks like Mars. It is considered to be one amongst the most dangerous roads in the world. Why?
Total emptiness, straight roads, no gas stations, absolute nothingness.
And here we are in the center, going on a straight pitch black highway for miles and miles and miles together.
The Pan American Route 5 section is so straight that it's very, very easy to fall asleep.
So what did we do consciously? Detour.
It is so flat and straight, it plays tricks on your mind. Suddenly you start seeing something a little different.
A hand protruding out of the desert.
Right in the middle of the desert, massive palm sculpture just in the midst of nowhere.
This is the hand of the desert which is there to protect you.
But the riders were not alone. Adventure seekers from around the world often unite to share the joy of touring.
We can stick stickers, yes.
We met so many travelers.
Indian made. This is a 400cc single cylinder. We are from India.
And you came with the all traveling?
On the bike, yes.
Wow.
Everybody had that expression when we mentioned it's a 400cc single cylinder riding from Alaska to Ushuaia.
Are you okay if I take a photo?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
They treated us like a celebrity.
1, 2, 3.
Argentina and Chile. Now this is what's gonna take us across to Ushuaia.
So here, riding is getting even more emotional because we know that we are getting closer and closer to our final destination.
On one hand, we were happy. On the other hand, we were sad that such a long association between the three of us and my motorcycle is going to end.
It was a huge feeling of pride, but at the same time, like I was feeling a little low.
Even the southern tip of the world tested the Dominar as the riders continued to face rocky and gravel-filled roads.
So all these things were taking a toll on us, but we were highly motivated because we were achieving what everybody thought is the impossible.
After touring 51,000 kilometers, exploring hundreds of towns and cities, and taming 2 entire continents, the 3 Dominars reached Ushuaia, the last town at the end of the world.
And here are the 3 Dominars that have come in absolute style. Estancia Mort, which is the end, the road's end for Argentina.
But the ride was not over yet. One more record still remained to be conquered.
We didn't name the Polar Odyssey and Arctic to Antarctic just like that. Having reached Ushuaia, Antarctic was just there.
Up close and personal with the white. Ready to roll.
It is a moment that is there and right in front of my eyes. The minute I pulled the bike out of the dinghy onto the Bellingshausen base, and when the captain told me, now you can start the bike.
The weather's pretty freezing, and now it's time to roll the rubber on the ice. Yes!
Dominar has actually gone up from the Russian base to the Uruguayan base.
We Indians rode an Indian-made machine from Anchorage to the Arctic Ocean, all the way down to Antarctic, and managed to do what many of the bikers would take years and eons to do it.
And to complete this without any breakdowns, I feel is a huge achievement.
It was the test of the man and the machine, and after the ride, I can proudly say both man and the machine proved their mettle.
This would definitely tell people that anything is possible. You just can take these motorcycles to any nook and corner of this world and you can do it.
51,000 kilometers, 15 countries and 2 continents in about 99 days. The Polar Odyssey has set some very new benchmarks. I've lost track of records.